This is Leaf Life. All things cannabis for all people. Now, Ricker and the Bearded Lorax.
We publish a free magazine and it's beautiful. It's called The Leaf and it's available in print in 14 states. Check it out at your local cannabis retailer and also available online at leafmagazines.com. I'm Mike Ricker, your host of Leaf Life, with my co-host Wes Abney, also known as the Bearded Lorax.
I speak for the trees.
And of course there's AJOG.
Hola, aloha OGs.
And Mary J. White.
Baked with love.
Welcome to the second half of this Leaf Life show called West Coast Clusterfuck. In just a moment, we'll discuss if there is a solution, what it is, and how do we implement it. And we'll spin AJ's wheel to see what products Aaron PELLEY, who is a partner at CANNALAW, a Washington state law firm. This show's Greg the Guinea Pig is going to be passing off to AJ, today's pinch hitter. But first, it's time for Not For Nothing.
Well, not for nothing. I couldn't help but think it. Not for nothing.
All right, Mary, this has nothing to do with cannabis.
Nope.
Still fun, though.
Yep. Well, not for this guy.
Oh, shoots.
Was not a good day for Florida man.
Oh.
Yes, indeed, my friends. A Florida man eating in a diner with his wife recently sneezed, as one does. And as he sneezed, his intestines came out of his stomach. Yeah, no, it's true. There they were, laying right there on top of his napkin. Anyway, what
Was it
happened?
rainbow colored?
No, he wasn't enjoying unicorns. Apparently.
I think he sneezed and farted at the same time.
Oh, gross.
They didn't report that.
Is that possible?
See,
Yes.
I'm up to date on all the
I
fun
know
poop
this
stories.
I'm
No way.
so confused.
Okay, so what happened was this poor fella, he had just had surgery like a couple weeks before, right?
Okay.
And little abdominal surgery, and then, okay, let's go out to dinner, right? So he's out to dinner. He went to the doctor that morning, and they said, oh, you're fine. They took out the fucking staples, right? Well, that was a mistake.
Wow.
Anyway, so he sneezed, and then he immediately noticed a wet sensation in his lower abdomen, and he looked down, and several loops of pink bowel
That's grody.
Anyway, it was protruding.
Protruding.
No.
Maniacal.
So
Prairie dogging.
the guys came, the people came with the ambulance, and they got him out of there. But that happened in Florida.
Wow.
Whoa, this guy needs a medical malpractice lawyer.
Immediately.
Not me.
Yeah, Aaron. I feel bad for
I
everyone
feel
else in the
terrible.
restaurant.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's something to
A
see.
big pile of intestines.
Oh, I
no,
feel terrible for the
thank you.
guy. That's just,
I wonder if it was spicy.
I believe it was a Waffle House, too.
Oh my God,
No
you
way.
don't know that.
Get out of here.
I read the story. It was the combination sneeze and
then-
fart, and it just...
Oh,
You know.
there's
No.
nothing here about the farting.
Were the innards,
which happens at the Waffle
classier.
House.
how do you guys
you go-
find these stories?
were his intestines
What
scattered,
exactly
smothered, covered, and chunked?
I know, like, what do you guys Google?
I Google
Twitter.
all the weird.
Mary J.
Oh,
White.
Lord.
Yeah.
I love the Waffle House. Kid Rock got in a big fight in one. There's always a story about
There's
a Waffle House.
Yep,
In
always.
Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, baby.
Mary J. White, thank you very much. AJ, spin
welcome.
that wheel. Let's toke it up.
All right. All right, y'all, here we go.
Oh, that's-
Another Dope Labs delicacy coming out of Olympia, Washington. This is ice cream cake times Kush Mintz, grown by Jason Talmadge.
Yum.
All right,
Ooh, that
let's
looks
do it. Let's light that up.
delicious.
There she goes.
That's a big, what's that, a gram? That's
Big old cone,
Yeah,
Mary.
it's a pretty big.
Yeah,
It's actually a pretty big cone. Yeah, it's
It's
bigger than a
big.
normal pre-roll. That's for sure, you guys.
Yeah.
They pack that to the end. And if I remember right, it's the same. It's oh yeah, actually, is it organically grown? This is definitely grown outdoor. Is it? Did
Not in
I'm not
Olympia.
I think the
certain.
weed is working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
I'm not sure if it's grown outdoor or
That's
not, but
indoor weed.
Is it? Okay.
Grown really well, and Dope Labs is newer to Washington State, so we're excited to see what's going to be coming out of there,
Wes,
as
have
well
you
as
been
some
to their farm?
concentrates. I have not.
Okay.
And if you're in Washington or Oregon, pretty much the east side of the state grows outdoor and the west side of the state grows indoor. Different climates.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah,
very
sure.
wet here
Yeah.
on the west side, so very difficult to grow weed and not, have it all mildewy and such.
Except I have really good luck on my patio.
Good point.
oh,
Yeah. When are we going to feature Mary J. White's weed? Not everyday Mary J. That's a legal product.
Right. Good luck on your patio, Mary. What kind of good luck are you getting into on your patio?
I just have very nice cannabis plants because I have a medical card and I can grow up to 15.
Hey.
Wow.
I use them in my classes, don't you know?
Yeah.
Oh, Mary, you got to check out her products, you guys.
We'll go to maryjwhite.com.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the solution for the West Coast clusterfuck. You have a crystal ball, right, Aaron?
Yeah.
Well, in some sense, I do. The first thing we were talking about was taxes.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're switching from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3.
Hopefully.
It's not a foregone conclusion, but it's very likely. And if that happens, that's going to be a windfall for all of these cannabis companies.
Can you explain why?
Under Schedule 1, you were automatically considered in an industry where you could not get tax write-offs. So you couldn't get any kind of tax write-offs except cost of goods sold, which made it just impossibly hard.
And that's tax code 280E.
That's right, yeah. 280E.
Federal tax code.
That's right. And so that going away is going to be one of the first things that's happening. The second one is more of a crisis that I think that the community themselves have. A majority, not all, but a majority of the people don't want to see somebody going to jail for a plant. Right. And that's what we all grew out of, right? And so now those same people are in a way in competition with all of these people that are growing illegally. And what we were talking about before was how do we keep all of this illegal cannabis from going out the back door? And we spent a lot of money and time and rules figuring that out, but we really didn't think about what it looked like when cannabis started coming in the back door. And what we have going on right now is a competitive market that is really undermining the legal market, and in a lot of ways is it's a crisis because we don't want to send people to jail for a plant, but we don't want people fucking up our markets. And so it's that crisis is one that I think that the industry themselves has to struggle with. And also, I would say that the cops are kind of taking the position, this is your problem now. So they're not taking an enforcement position.
Right.
The feds aren't taking an enforcement position. And the people don't want to call out the problem for what it really is. And so that crisis, I don't really know the answer to. I'd say that the third crystal ball is one which I can't see myself being allowed to do, but I think that easily that the market could start doing interstate commerce. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now, you're saying, just to clarify on that previous, because there was a lot to unpack. So people were always scared that a farm would have extra weed in a legal market. In Washington, it's 502. So they were scared that you were going to grow weed in Washington, not be able to sell it in Washington. So you're going to send it out the back door to a state that doesn't have legal weed. And I think that happens a little bit in states like Washington or Oregon. I don't believe it's a huge systemic problem because of the competitive market that's pushing weed through and it's being sold. However, in California, that has been going on forever, where there's, even farms will have a legal farm right next to their illegal farm or an illegal warehouse next to their legal warehouse. Very similar products. The only difference is one is getting heavily taxed and the other isn't. But what you're saying, and I have heard this recently, is that because of the overhead, the taxation, the barriers to entry, and the high cost to grow the weed legally, now people are growing illegal weed for the legal market. And that is like kind of a mind blow moment for a lot of people because they don't understand. It doesn't make sense. Like if you can grow it in either place, why wouldn't you just grow it in your legal grow, but it's taxed, it's regulated, there's a plant count. There might be pesticides or chemicals that are advantageous in an illegal grow. And let's face it, we've all smoked a lot of pesticides. It's not that big of an issue, in my opinion. But what it is an issue is if, say, there's an illegal farm in California growing weed without any regulation, using perhaps like immigrant labor to trim, not paying, a living wage, not covering labor laws, none of that, then that weed has a much lower overhead or cost of goods, can be sold into the rec market and can outcompete legal weed by a significant margin. And I don't think anyone saw that coming.
I don't think so.
Nobody
either.
thought the black market would compete with the rec market.
Yeah, me neither.
It turns it into a different game.
It does.
Wow.
And then, and then as far as the interstate market or interstate commerce goes, again, if Wisconsin people could only sell cheese to people in Wisconsin, they wouldn't be very successful.
Exactly. Yeah.
They get to sell it to everybody.
Yeah.
We grow some of the best weed on the West Coast than anywhere else in the world.
The best weed.
If we could get it out there to these other states, I'm convinced that we would be all very successful.
Is it just a taxation issue in your opinion, or a regulatory issue, or a kind of both?
Everyone goes back to the Cole memo, and in the Cole memo, what they said was you can't take this over interstate lines. But we've revoked the Cole memo,
And that was the DEA.
The Cole Memorandum.
That's right, and that came out back in like 2011 or 12. It was 2012. Cole memo came out. It had 14 things they didn't want us to do. The feds, really ridiculous memo, because at the end of it, they said, even if you don't do any of these things, we could still prosecute you if we want to.
We reserve the right.
Yeah, exactly. So meaningless memo that everyone put all this stock into. Like, these are the rules.
Like one of them being 1,000-foot distance from a school or a park. And here in Washington and Seattle, great Instagram account to follow. Seattle looks like shit if you really want to see kind of the darker side. But we have to have cannabis dispensaries 1,000 feet away from any, school bus stop, park, school, daycare, anything like that. You can have a liquor store right next door or a bar, and there often are. But what's been the ultimate hypocrisy is seeing homeless camps within 500 feet of schools where there's needles and fentanyl and all kinds of crime. And so we are in that juxtaposition where it's like the weed is the safer thing that's being heavily regulated and taxed more than the alcohol, more than the tobacco.
Right.
And I think that is a scary thing, but it also is why we got to do this. They didn't legalize it because they wanted freedom. Like the majority of people, they saw a taxation, they saw a benefit to the states. And in like Colorado, they have a tax fund for weed that goes to potholes, ironically, in schools, and they track that money. And so people are like, cool, this benefits Colorado.
Pot for potholes. I love pot for potholes.
That's a great idea.
So right now the money's lost in the general fund. And so I think it starts with the taxation and then the overregulation and then treating this like something that can be tracked and sold. That is the next step. But is there a desire for that? Do you believe on a federal level?
I don't know. I mean, it's funny about the federal level and that happening at all. I don't know that anybody should be excited about when this becomes federally legal, because we really have a mom and pop industry in all of these states. Yeah. And I don't know that we can compete at the level that once this becomes federal and it becomes a true commodity. So in some sense, I'm trying to enjoy it while it lasts.
And for
because
people,
then you compete with Nabisco.
Right.
And for people who think that federal legalization is the answer, there is so much diversity between the states, not just these 3 states, but every other state. How do you clean that up and make it uniform so that it's a one size fits all for the entire country? There'll be lawsuits out the door.
And when you say diversity, you mean like diversity of rules and regulations, like what's legal in one state isn't legal in another. Right. In Washington, you can't smell the weed out of the jar. In Oregon, you can pick the bud out from a pound of, so it's just that diverse regulatory environment is great for lawyers.
Yeah, it's true.
But confusing for regulators. And then it's like, okay, well, if a product meets the Washington standard, then how do we ship it to Oregon if that was, say, legal? And then Oregon has a different standard for packaging or labeling or disclosure of it. So there will have to be a uniform approach to this. And I've said for a long time that it's a double-edged sword. The taxation, the illegality makes it really hard for our industry, but it's allowing that cottage industry, the mom and pops, to do this. And that is what has allowed a unique, prosperous, small craft cannabis industry to happen. If this all goes to Nabisco and Coca-Cola, not only do we lose all that, we lose the leaf, most likely. We lose our whole community. So it's like weird. Do we look forward to federal legalization? Yes. Do we also fear it? I think rightfully so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, I just want to say, like, if there's any Alliance board members out there or lawmakers out there, this is a very relevant statement. This is coming from one of the most highly published cannabis writers right now out of the United States, maybe in the world. And this is a very educated statement. And I just hope that you guys take sustainability into mind as a priority, because if we looked at this from a sustainable standpoint, sustainable for the plant, the genetics, the farm, the land, and then sustainable for the people, then we would create, it would turn into it would be treated and respected as normal agriculture is treated and respected. Because there are some states where this plant is not going to grow abundantly. There are some states where there are people who are just not ready for the smell in the air. They're not ready for like what comes with this plant, you know? So being able to have interstate commerce would eliminate all of those issues. And like Aaron said, likely all of us would be able to sell our herb, period. And we wouldn't have these deep deficits because there is a big need for this plant.
Truth.
Well stated, AJ.
Yep.
All right, Aaron, now it's time for you to play Colombia or Cambodia.
Oh, Aaron.
Welcome, fellow scholars.
Bienvenida a nuestro juego de malezas.
It's time to play
Colombia
Colombia.
or Cambodia.
Yeah, now you got a 50% chance,
All right,
Aaron.
I like that odds.
Better odds. We went 0 for 3 last time. I thought
Aaron.
you loved Wes.
I mean,
Yeah,
Guess
I
not.
do.
No,
Not the
you
way not the way I thought, though.
Right, exactly.
apparently.
You haven't been to his house lately.
That's for sure. I didn't even know he had a yard.
Yard. He's got unicorns, bro.
Snozzleberries in his yard.
Yeah.
It's the whole Cascade Range.
Yeah, really.
I'm ready to do a dab in some unicorn poop after this show. So, on the heels of the massive global success of the games Serbia or Siberia, Australia or Austria, Tanzania or Tasmania, Switzerland or Swaziland, and of course, salmon or salamander, here's another ball-busting brain bender.
Oh, dear. Good
Ready, Aaron?
alliteration.
I'm ready.
All right, brother. Number 1, Colombia or Cambodia. This country has the highest amount of rainfall in the world annually. Colombia or Cambodia?
I'm going to say Colombia.
He's right.
Wow, good job.
Yeah, Colombia
baby.
records an average of 127 inches of rainfall annually. The country is
caramba.
located in an intertropical convergence zone consisting of a wide belt of low pressure within which large masses of warm and humid air converge. Most of the rains occur in the Pacific region with an average annual rainfall of 523 inches.
What?
Yeah.
Come on.
That's
Yeah.
a proper rain.
That's a lot. That's an inch and a half a day.
More than Mary's backyard.
Damn right.
All right. Number 2. And she lives on Puget Sound here in Seattle.
Es mucho
Very
mueve.
wet. Number 2. This country is classified as the second most biodiverse country in the world. Colombia or Cambodia?
Oh.
Biodiverse?
Yeah.
Cambodia.
He's wrong.
Colombia.
Colombia again.
Colombia again.
brother.
All right.
Colombia is classified as a megadiverse country characterized by a significant variety of endemic species that includes those in the Amazon rainforests. Cool. My gentlemen.
Viva Colombia.
Number 3. The giant ibis is this country's national bird. Colombia or Cambodia?
Looks kind of like an ostrich that went on a
Giant
diet.
It's
ibis.
a giant. It's a giant.
Huge.
Yes.
I'm going to say Cambodia because it hasn't been on here yet.
He's right.
All right. That was, thank you. Thank you.
Look at him. He's a lawyer. He deduces.
You'll see. Smart.
This should not be misconstrued as the giant mustached fee-wabling stork who has been known to deliver baby bearded loraxes into the blackberry thickets of the American Pacific Northwest. The 2 times that the giant mustached fee-wabling stork did arrive to the Lazy Boy sponsored bearded lorax den with a baby bearded lorax cuddled and cooing in a white sheet hanging from its beak, the bearded lorax was quoted in saying, "A giant ibis get my shit together now because I got a family to feed."
No, God, help us all.
Not the same
ibis.
type of giant ibis, Mary.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I was confused.
It was very literary. Now I'm kind of bummed I didn't smoke weed.
Right? Doesn't
Hey,
he?
Aaron, where can we find you on social media and CANNALAW?
CANNALAW blog, or just type in Aaron. I show up there
Just
somewhere
Aaron.
on the first page.
Just
Aaron Pelley.
Aaron Pally, there we go.
Do you have an Instagram or Facebook account?
I don't.
Good for you.
But I could probably get one.
No, it's cool, bro.
It's all right. You don't need it. It's
So
okay.
get a CANNALAW.com.
Yeah, CANNALAWblog.com. So
Gotcha.
3 words. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the Leaf Live podcast.
Thank
Aaron.
you guys for having me. This was great. I love this. So come next year.
Okay.
Hey, Wes,
Thank you.
next week, 90s Seattle grunge movement.
Oh,
The best time
yeah.
ever.
Oh,
Are we gonna listen to some Kurt Cobain?
We're going to achieve nirvana.
I was in a punk rock band during that time. So
You
if you guys
were?
can find the name of that band, I'll give you a special prize.
Unicorn poop.
No.
Wait, what did you do in the band, Aaron?
I was
Gotta
the
know.
lead screamer.
oh,
You
yeah.
were?
And I had red and purple dreadlocks.
Can
Yes,
we
you
have
did.
Can we have a sample?
I'll send you a picture.
All right.
Aaron Pelly.
I was listening to you on the radio.
Back then?
Yeah.
Nice, brother. Download this and all Leaf Life episodes at leafmagazines.com. And please subscribe on YouTube at Leaf Life Podcast V2. Now get ready for another episode of Stony Baloney, which is also available at leafmagazines.com. And please be kind to animals and unicorns.
Your hosts for Leaf Life are Mike Ricker and Wes Abney. Leaf Life is produced by Mike Daly. Some of the music heard is provided by purple-planet.com. Every bit of cannabis you use is female, so please respect the ladies. Leaf Life is brought to you by Leaf Nation, featuring Alaska Leaf, Oregon Leaf, Northwest Leaf, Maryland Leaf, Amsterdam Leaf, and California Leaf. On the shelf now in your local retailer. Now, please stay tuned for this week's edition of Stony Baloney by Mike Ricker.
Stony Baloney by Mike Ricker.
Cursing is liberating. When venom is coursing through your embroiled veins, it feels good to let out an exultant fuck. In fact, you would be hard-pressed to find any single word in the English language so versatile. Call us unrefined, but when you have such an effective expression that is so interchangeable simply by the tone and cadence with which it is spit, why reach into that bag of expletives for anything else? With fuck as the signature example, swear words can be some of the most impactful of all expressions. The exemplary embodiment of absolute emotion. They are the sprinkles to your sentences, the punctuation to your pronouns, the gravy on your mashed potatoes. And when you study how we might have arrived at this era of artful articulation, it seems plausible that this breakthrough gained momentum when the 1940s war children came of age a decade later. After having their mouths washed out with soap enough times in the cookie-cutter order of row housing, they grew weary of the conservative austerity it took to defeat the Nazis, ready to adopt their rock and roll identity, ripe for a cultural rebellion, and rightfully accentuated by bad words in back alleys with cuffed jeans and cigarette-fueled observations. If you think about it, language is a peculiar vehicle for communicating. And since the advent of our grunts towards a more competent connection, shunned words have had a place on the periphery of the dictionary. And when it comes to the word fuck, why would you insulate the most foolproof remark that pinpoints your fiery feelings when it specifically flavors your fervor? Doesn't it feel liberating to let it out? Just like a giant, breathy bong toke.
Stony Baloney. Some of the wardrobe, including Ricker and Wes's sick lids, is provided by Grassroots California. Check out the dopeness at grassrootscalifornia.com.
These products have intoxicating effects and may be habit-forming.
Marijuana can impair concentration, coordination, and judgment.
Do not operate a vehicle or machinery under the influence of this drug.
There may be health risks associated with consumption of these products.
For use by adults 21 and older.
Keep out of the reach of children.